something shifted the moment you stopped waiting for them to change. Something cracked inside them the moment they realized you were not coming back this time. Not because you were louder or more dramatic or more final, but because something in your energy changed. Something in your silence became so complete, so absolute, so unshakable that even they could feel it. And that feeling terrified them in ways they will never allow themselves to admit. That is what this is about. That is why you need to stay with me for every single word of what I am about to tell you. Because what happens inside a narcissist when they truly know you are gone forever is one of the most psychologically revealing, deeply important things you will ever understand. And understanding it will change everything for you. Before we go any further, I need you to do something right now. If you have ever felt invisible, discarded, confused, manipulated, or shattered by someone who was supposed to love you, this channel exists for you. Hit that subscribe button right now, not later, right now, because what you are about to hear will crack open your understanding of everything you went through and hand you back the paper. Would you have thought you lost forever? Subscribe and do not walk this road alone. Now, let me take you into the mind of the person who made you question your reality, your worth, your sanity, your very sense of self. Let me take you into the invisible world that exists behind their mask the moment they understand, truly understand, that you are done. Not angry done, not hurt done, but free done, healed done. Gone in a way that cannot be undone. Here is the truth they will never speak out loud. When a narcissist realizes you are truly gone, they do not grieve the way a healthy person grieves. They do not sit with sadness. They do not reflect on what they did wrong and feel genuine remorse. Instead, something far more complex, far more calculated, and far more revealing begins to happen beneath the surface. And it happens whether you see it or not, whether they would ever admit it or not. The first thing that happens is so quiet you would almost miss it. Their ego, that enormous, fragile, brittle construction they have spent time building, begins to crack from the inside because your departure does not just represent the loss of you as a person, it represents the collapse of a narrative, their narrative, the story they told themselves about who they are, about how much power they hold, about their ability to keep people locked in orbit around them. You were supposed to stay. You were supposed to keep chasing. You were supposed to be proof that they mattered, and now you have walked away and the proof is gone. And they are left standing in the ruins of a story they can no longer tell themselves. Understand this deeply. A narcissist does not derive their sense of self from within. They derive it from the reflection they see in the eyes of others. They need your reaction. They need your pain, your longing, your anger, your love, your desperate need to understand them. All of it was fuel. All of it was a mirror, and when you remove yourself, when you become indifferent, when your eyes stop reflecting them back in a way they can use, it is not just loss they feel, it is something closer to annihilation. The terrifying sensation of becoming invisible in a way they have always feared, but would rather die than admit. The first behavior is what I call the silent surveillance. They do not reach out immediately because doing so would reveal need, and revealing need is something their ego cannot tolerate. Instead, they watch, they check your social media, they ask mutual contacts casual questions dressed up as small talk. They hover in digital spaces where they might catch a glimpse of who you are becoming. This surveillance is not innocent curiosity, it is control disguised as distance. It is obsession wearing the costume of nonchalance because they cannot stop watching you. What are they looking for? Signs of suffering, signs that you miss them, signs that the life you are building without them is falling apart, because if they find those signs, it restores something in them. It tells them the story they need to hear. It says, you are still the one with power, you still win. This is the pathological calculus of the narcissistic ego. Your pain is their medicine, your flourishing is their poison. But here is what becomes even more revealing. What happens when they watch and they do not see suffering? What happens when they see you laughing? What happens when they monitor your life and find you are thriving? This is when the internal collapse deepens and the external performance escalates. because your healing is not just your healing. To them it is an indictment, it is evidence, it is a verdict. Your happiness without them says something their ego cannot metabolize, that they were the problem, that life without them is not smaller, it is lighter. And that realization lives inside them like a wound that refuses to close. And so the second behavior begins, the calculated non-contact contact. They do not call you. Instead, they call someone they know will mention it to you. They do not message you. Instead, they post something on social media clearly designed for you to see, engineered to provoke a specific emotional reaction. They engineer coincidences. They arrange collisions. They orchestrate run-ins that look accidental but are anything but, because they still need you to know they exist, because your indifference is a kind of violence to them. Not the violence they inflicted on you, but the violence of invisibility, of no longer matters to someone who once organized their entire emotional world around them. So many people who have left a narcissist mistake these maneuvers for genuine feeling. They see the engineered coincidence and think maybe they changed. They feel the old pull, the old hope, the old wound reopening. I am telling you right now with every ounce of clinical clarity I possess, what you are witnessing is not love. It is the frantic scrambling of an ego trying to restore its own supply. You are not their person, you are their power source. And the difference between those two things is everything. They also rewrite the entire history of your relationship the moment they sense the finality of your departure. Completely immediately, without hesitation. They will tell others and tell themselves that you were the problem, that you were unstable, demanding, ungrateful, too sensitive, too difficult to love. They will take every wound they inflicted on you and turn it into a wound they claim you inflicted on them. This is a full psychological renovation of the past, designed to ensure they remain blameless, they remain right, they remain the one who was wronged. And they will spread this narrative to carefully selected people, to people whose opinion you still care about. They will position themselves as the abandoned, the hurt, the misunderstood. They will craft a public image of victimhood so convincing that even people who witnessed the abuse may begin to doubt what they saw. It is Evange and image rehabilitation wrapped in a single performance, but I need you to hear this. Their need to destroy your reputation is the loudest possible announcement of their own guilt. A person who genuinely believes they did nothing wrong does not work this hard to convince others. The intensity of their campaign against you is directly proportional to the truth of what they did to you. Every story they have to tell, every ear they have to bend is evidence that somewhere inside them, beneath all the armor, they know. They know what they did, they know what they were, they know what they lost, and they cannot live with it unmedicated. Their medication is your destruction. Do not let them medicate themselves with your name. If this content is reaching you in a place you have never been reached before, if these words are giving language to things you have felt but could not name, then please, right now, subscribe to this channel. Because this work, this deep, unflinching excavation of narcissistic abuse and the recovery from it, this is what we do here. Every piece of content on this channel is built for the person who has survived what you have survived. Subscribe now, because the depth we have reached right now is only the beginning. One of the first things a narcissist does when they feel the permanence of your departure is find a replacement publicly, almost immediately. And for so many survivors, this is the moment that breaks them open all over again. Because they see it and they think, I meant nothing, I was replaceable. What does that say about me? I need you to stop. I need you to breathe. And I need you to understand something so important it might rearrange everything. The speed with which they replaced you is not a measure of your value. It is a measure of their dysfunction. A healthy person who loses a significant relationship needs grief. They need time. They need the discomfort of being alone with themselves. But a narcissist can slot a new person into the space left by the last person almost immediately. Not because they feel nothing, but because what they were attached to was never truly you. It was the function you served, the supply you provided, the role you played in the economy of their ego. And that role can be filled by someone else, temporarily, inadequately, but filled enough to quiet the noise inside them. But the replacement it's not working the way they need it to because you are still there in their mind. You, the one who got away, who became free, who stopped reflecting them back in a way they could control. You occupy a specific chamber in their psychology that no replacement can access. And in the quiet moments when the supply drops for even a second, when the silence returns, you are still there, haunting them in ways that no new relationship can silence. Their need to replace you so quickly is evidence of their wound, not yours. Their inability to be alone is evidence of their emptiness, not your inadequacy. You were not replaceable. You were necessary to a system that was never sustainable. And systems that cannot sustain themselves will always collapse, even with a new fuel source. The collapse is coming because the architecture was always unstable. That was never about you. Now, let me speak to something that lives in the body of almost every person who has this kind of relationship: the guilt. The particular specific torture of feeling guilty for leaving someone who hurt you, for thinking maybe you should have tried harder, maybe loved better, maybe communicated differently. I need to speak direction exactly to that guilt right now because it is not yours. The guilt you feel is a residue of their programming. It is the echo of every time they made you responsible for their behavior, every time they convinced you that the problem in the relationship was your reaction to being mistreated rather than the mistreatment itself. The guilt is not evidence of something you did wrong. The guilt is proof of the abuse. You did not fail that relationship. That relationship was designed to fail you. There is no version of you, no more patient, more loving, more self-sacrificing version of you that would have made it work, because the failure was built into the foundation. You were pouring water into a vessel with no bottom. Not because you were not pouring enough, but because the vessel was designed to drain everything you gave, and still you gave, and still you loved, and still you hoped. That is not your weakness. That is your humanity. That enormous, relentless capacity to love belongs to you. It was never wasted, it was just misdirected. And reclaiming that capacity, giving it on your own terms in relationships that are safe enough to hold it, that is one of the most sacred parts of healing. At you experienced in that relationship was chronic activation of your threat response system. Your nervous system was never truly at rest because the environment was never truly safe, even in the good moments. Some part of you was on alert, waiting for the shift, waiting for the coldness to return. Your body learned through repetition that closeness and danger lived in the same space, that love and pain were interchangeable. This is why leaving does not immediately feel like relief. This is why your body still sometimes pulls toward them, because your nervous system was conditioned to read their presence as familiar, and familiar in the body's language often translates as safe even when the content of that familiarity was anything but. The longing you feel is not evidence that you should go back. It is evidence that your nervous system is still completing a healing process. It is proof of the depth of the conditioning, not the depth of the love. Here is what your healing looks like from their perspective, and this is the part that carries the most power if you can really let it in. Your healing is their consequence, not in a vengeful way, but in a cosmic, undeniable, truth-telling way. Very time you choose yourself, you are demonstrating the cost of what they chose. Every time you sit in the discomfort of healing, instead of running back to the comfort of familiar chaos, you are doing the inner work they may never be capable of doing. Every time you laugh without performing, every time you feel without shame, every time you exist without justifying your existence to someone who made you feel like you needed permission to take up space, you are healing. And your healing is the most powerful statement you could ever make. If these words are doing something to you that you cannot quite name, but that feels like the beginning of something, this is your moment to lock in. Subscribe to this channel right now if you have not already, because what we build here, conversation by conversation, truth by truth, is a community of people who have been where you have been and who are walking towards something different, something real, something that belongs to them. Subscribe and let this channel be part of your healing, the person you became in that relationship, the smaller, quieter, more careful version of you who walked on eggshells, who monitored their own emotions before experiment, wrestling them, who second-guessed their own perceptions, who apologized for things that were not wrong, who shrank themselves to fit into the space they were allowed. That person was not you. That was a survival response. That was your brilliant ancient nervous system doing what it had to do to keep you safe in an environment that was not safe. That was not weakness. That was intelligence of the most instinctual kind. The true truth of who you are is the person who left. The person who, through some accumulation of pain or clarity or grace, looked at what was happening and said no more. Even if you doubted yourself immediately after, even if you went back once or twice before it stuck, the decision to leave, to stop going back, to choose your own reality over their curated illusion of one, that decision is one of the bravest things a human being can do after being systematically conditioned to doubt their own perceptions. The narcissist out there right now watching from a distance, performing their indifference, parading their replacement, rewriting their history, quietly obsessing over the one they could not keep, they already know it. 2. On some level, they will never speak aloud. Some chamber of their psychology they will never willingly enter. They know what they had, they know what they were, they know what they did, and they know that what they lost when they lost you was not just a person, not just a supply, not just a mirror, but an encounter with the possibility of something real, something true, something that required them to be more than what they chose to be, and they could not rise to it, and you could not wait any longer for them to. That is not a tragedy you need to carry. That is a door that closed behind you as you walked forward towards something they will never fully understand and can never follow you into. You are not the wound. You never were. You are the person who survived it, the person who chose themselves even when everything had been done to make that choice feel impossible, the person who is sitting here right now still seeking, still growing, still refusing to accept a life smaller than what you deserve. And every day you choose that. Every day you choose your healing over their narrative, your truth over their revision, your growth over their stagnation. You are not just recovering from what they did to you. You are building something that the best version of your life will be constructed on. You are learning the language of your own worth. You are becoming fluent in the vocabulary of your own needs. You are relearning how to trust the intelligence of your own body, your own instincts, your own knowing. And that knowing, that deep cellular soul level knowing that led you to finally stop going back, that has never been more alive in you than it is right now. Right now, in this moment, it is speaking, and you, for perhaps the first time in a long time, are finally